Okay, so in this next video, what we're going to do is we're going to add questions to our FAQ project. So in this, what we're going to want to do is I'm going to come back over here to FAQ, and basically what you're going to see is we're kind of rinse and repeat. What we do is we create our models, get our models set up, write the unit test. Um, we basically write the unit test for all the methods that we add to our models. And then that's it. And then we do the seeds and factories, and that's what we're gonna, and then we finish that up and then commit it, and then that's a feature. So in order to do questions, let's start off with, we're gonna first generate our model and migration. So I'm gonna do PHP artisan make model, make colon model question dash m, and then I'm going to come over to my FAQ. Oops, my bad. Here, let me, and I was being bad. I didn't do my version control, so I'm actually gonna do git branch and this will actually be useful. So I made a mistake. I wanted to do this all before I did. So I'm actually going to want to delete this. I have to come over here to my migrations table, and it probably has, yeah, it didn't catch it yet. So I can safely delete this. So, because what I want to do is I want to do this cleanly on a new branch. That's important because we don't want to mix these up. Let's see here. And let's see if we got rid of it. So we got question, and let's hope this, let's just do a real quick check here. That's why I like unit tests, because I can do PHP unit. Does this work? Yes, we're good. And then we do PHP artisan migrate refresh. Oh, forgot my colon. And we're good. Now, one of the things I wanted to show you, I forgot to in the last video, so I didn't want to do a little video editing. Sorry, it takes a long time. It takes like an hour and a half to resplice these videos together. Or a lot longer depending on the length of the video. What I want to be able to do is make sure all my stuff is committed. So I'm actually just going to add on to there, because the problem is the unversioned file. I noticed that the unversioned files are the new files we added, and I didn't pick those up. So I gotta make sure I get all the unversioned files, because if not, it doesn't take everything. And what I want to do is do a VCS, and since I know that this works, there's two things that we're going to want to do. All right, so there's a kind of like a little bit, this is good to see this. So what I am going to do is I'm actually going to push up to GitHub this branch. So on GitHub, if we go back over to there, I'm going to refresh this, and then I got a new branch called user profile, and we got our commits from here. Okay, ideally I would have picked up unversioned files and would have been able to get these two together, but I'm not going to be able to do that. So this is the unversioned files and this is the version files, but normally I just didn't see the unversioned checkbox at the bottom. I'll show you that whenever we do the next video, or whenever we continue. So once I do this, now the next thing that I want to do is, since this works, I'm going to merge this into my master. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go up to VC Tools, VCS Git, branches, and then I'm going to switch to, I'm going to check out master. So this is going to set me up with master. And then what I want to do is do VCS Git merge changes from user profile. And the next thing I'm going to do is, see, now we have profile and we're on the master branch. See, what merge does is it takes you go to the master branch and then you merge the changes from the branch you created whenever you did the feature. And then now what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a tools push, or sorry, VCS Git push, and this is going to, that merge takes all the commits that we had on our profile branch and puts them together, and then we're going to push them up to the server. And I'm going to go back to WIS, I'm sorry, go here to FAQ, and you see this is going to have all the commits that I had on my master branch, because now master is actually got the user profile stuff in it. And now that master is done, or now that master is update, I'm going to go back to this. I'm going to do git branches, new branch, because now we're going to do question. So the question branch is now created, and now that I'm on the, you see down the bottom corner, you can see question branch all the way down the corner of PHP Storm, so you know what branch you're on. And so now I'm going to start running doing my commands, because now I'm going to generate my questions file. So PHP artisan, our model and migration, make model capital Q question -m, and I know that I'm going to need to make a few files, so I'm actually just going to make them because we know what those files are. It's going to be the test file, the seed file, the factory file. So the next thing I'm going to do is just do make factory, and I always double check what my naming convention is. So it's user factory. So we're going to do question factory. We're going to need to get a seed. So it's going to be questions table seeder. So I go into seeds because you see that there's a pattern here. We just keep renaming the stuff. Keep this camel cased. That camel case is this uppercase U, uppercase T, S. So it's like humps on a camel. And so the questions table seeder I'm going to need. And now we're going to need make test. And then again, we'll check our naming conventions. And so we have profile test, so we're going to make question test dash dashed unit. All right, so that gave us all our files that we need for doing our feature. So let's start off at the top. So let's start off at the bottom actually. So let's go to the database migration. And that -m when we created the model is what created the migration for it, and it automatically pluralizes it. So, and what we're going to do is we're going to just come over to our questions table here, and again you're going to see how we're going to relate our question to our user. So I'm going to copy this code and I'm going to come over to here into our question here and save this, and we're going to do a little quick check. So let's just do PHP artisan migrate so the questions table was all good. Now let's go up to our questions factory, and I'm going to get the Faker code for that, which is, you've seen Faker, we've talked about Faker, you've worked with that, so we're just going to get the questions factory, and we just put one field on the question factory. And the reason why we just have one field at a time, really, we just have the minimal amount we need for doing questions. We don't put any extra things on because we want to unit test everything in the program. So we just do things in little chunks. It's like little chunks, that little perfect chunks of our program. It's like stacking perfect bricks of the program. We don't want to add any extra features other than just the bare minimum to get the thing started. So what I'm going to do is come over to here, and on our questions factory, I'm going to come over here and I put this in. And then the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to go to the question unit test. And once we go into the question unit test, what we're going to do is, again, come over to FAQ, and I'm going to go to the questions unit test. And so we're going to, first one we're going to do is this answers one comes later, but we're going to do testing save, because that's basically what the test, we want to just say test that a questions record can be saved. Oh wait, my bad. While I have it here, I'm going to put it in here because I forgot to do something. I got to put on my model, I got to put, actually let's grab all of that so we don't have to write anything. To see how the pattern works, question test, test save, user save, save, question class, and it all works. Let's run this and see what happens. Okay, before we actually work on it, so that you can see like what an error looks like. So CLS, PHP unit. We got 4 tests, 3 assertions, and it did not work. Oops. I forgot. I should have gone. I messed up my factory. So let me just show you this. This is like error with my factory. The reason why my factory is an error, I forgot to grab out the whole function. So let me just grab the whole thing. And I forgot to put my model in here for the factory of which one it was doing. And it's still going to be an error because we didn't add the method to connect the two, because that's what it is. It's a one function slash method that connects the records together. And so it's like user does not exist. So let's take a look at our question test. So what it's saying is user does not exist. This is it. See, question, the user method on the question doesn't exist. So the question doesn't know how to associate a user. So what we got to do is we got to go up to our question model, and we need to put on our question model, oops, the user method. So we're going to put the user method on our question model. And then let's see what happens. 4 assertions, 4 passed, we're all good. And we can see that I'm going to refresh this, and now we have a questions. We have a question body, user ID 6. That would be for, if we went to our users table, user ID 6 is the last user, because we remember we created the user in the unit test. So that was the user was created, and we can check that everything is working. And the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to come over here and see what we're going to have is in 2 conditions. Sometimes we're going to create questions and then have those questions have the user method on the question, but sometimes what we're going to want to do is have the user retrieve the questions. Like, for example, when the user logs in and they want to see if their questions have been answered, when they log in, you're going to have the user object. So you're going to want to use the user object to retrieve the questions. So every time we add a lot of times whenever not every time, but a lot of times when we add a new model like questions, with a relationship to user, we could have the inverse relationship put on to the user model so the user model can get their questions. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to jump down to the user model here, and I'm going to take the questions method here, and we'll talk about that in a minute. I'm going to come over to FAQ here, and I'm going to jump into here, and underneath the profile method we're going to add the questions method. And you see the question method says this has many, so this user has many app questions. It's basically, once you kind of understand what this is, that it's the user, it's the object that it's in, then it makes sense. User has many questions. Has many questions. That's the question model, and questions is the method. So now, because we have a new method on our user model, what we're going to have to do is go to our user tests. So we have a question test, the test save, but then we're going to have, we have a new method on our user, and let's actually put a, we can go and let's do a generate a user test file here. Probably should have done that for the other one too, but we'll fix that. We'll do that all right now. So PHP, so we're going to PHP artisan make test user test -- unit. Oh, must have misspelled something here. Hold on. All right, so now we got our user test. So I'm actually going to catch up with this. I'm going to sneak a little bit of code in here. Don't do this. Don't do this. Don't do as I'm doing here. I'm going to sneak a little user test code in that we probably should have put in earlier. I already have it in my FAQ. Let's see here. I got to get my user model. Let me get me my test, my user test. And so we got to test save and test questions. So we're going to take both of these because we're going to test that the user saves. So I forgot to do that. I forgot to do it because like the user has to save. Laravel made it work, but we might as well just throw the save test onto the user because something might be wrong. So at some point in the future, and it's easy enough to just test that the user was saved. So what we're going to do is I'm going to come over to my user test here and wipe this out, and we're going to test the, let me explain this. So we just say test the saving of a user. See, user test, save the user, user save, assert true that that's saved. Now, but here, this is a little bit funny. In this method, what we do is we're testing that questions are returned for that user. So we're testing public function test questions is user to get the user's questions. We're testing the get method. So we're just testing questions. And what I do is object is a PHP built-in function, and that just returns true if what's in between the parentheses is actually an object, and it is. So anytime I'm testing these methods like questions - get, that comes back as an object, and then because and if not, it's broken and it doesn't come back as an object, then the test would fail. So that's how we test. This is basically how we test retrieving records without having to check that what those records are. We don't care what the records are. We just want to know we got something, and we're testing that we retrieved questions. And then questions is an object whenever it's retrieved. So I'm going to save this, And then let's just type in PHP unit. 6 tests, 6 assertions. We're cooking now. Now what we got to do is now that we got the question test done, we got the user test done, we got all this stuff done, we're going to now make the seeder for making fake questions. So let's go up to database here, and this is going to be, we're going to copy this line. And we just change this to table seeder. And I'm going to save this thing. And I'm going to come over to questions table seeder, and let's go over to the FAQ program and get our questions table seeder code. And this is going to be a little bit different. Not much, but you're going to see how this a nice thing here. So when we have these records, what we want to do is come over to here, and I'm in the question table seeder file. So I'm pasting this, and let's take a look at this. So what happens is that we got users app/user : alt. This retrieves all of our users. Then what happens is that we're gonna put a question. We're gonna make one question per user. So users is a collection, and it has a method called each. So each user, and it passes the user that's being worked on into here. And then what we're doing is make a question, associate a user with a question. So this connects the user to the question, and then saving it. It's kind of like the profile. Oops. And so let's save this, and then let's run this. So PHP artisan. Let's just do this. So PHP unit. We'll do it. PHP artisan migrate refresh -- seed, and let's see what happens. And now let's check our questions table, and we have to refresh it, and we got 50 questions with 50 users. So it pulled back all, and then each user was put in, and we're good. So right now what we got is the unit test. We got the question model, we got the question migration, we got the question factory, the question unit test, and the question seed. So now we've tested all of the function that we've made in our unit test, and we've verified that multiple records and that the relationships are correct and that everything is working. And if we were going to go and do performance testing, for example, later, we're not doing in this video, but later the seeding becomes really useful for a few reasons, because in the next series that I'm going to show you is how do you take not the next video, but the next week of stuff, we're going to end up doing the HTML first, like the displaying the views for all this content, and all these functions that we've just done are what we're going to need in the future. All right, so what we're going to want to do here is we're basically finished. So we're going to come up to tools or VCS git, or sorry, we're going to do a commit, and we're going to pick up those unversioned files this time so we don't do double commit. And I'm going to do added question and we'll just say and added tests for user profile and what I do is like say something like cleanup, because this was not included in this, but I have it in the commit, and I want to do a and question tests. And we're checking all that, and we're going to commit it. Let's go back up to VCS, git push. This is a new branch. We're going to push this, and then what we're going to do is we're going to merge it to master, git branches, and you can actually just show you a different thing here. We can go down in the right corner, and it brings up the same menu. So I'm going to check out my master branch, and I'm going to merge my question branch into here. So tools, VCS, git, merge changes, question. So I'm going to pick the question branch, and I'm going to merge it. And then let's go to the terminal, and let's do PHP unit 6 assertion 6 test. We're on the master branch. We didn't do that work on the master branch, remember. We did that on the question branch, and we merged the question branch into master. So now we can do PHP artisan migrate and so now the master branch has everything now. So it has the profile, it has the profile, and it has question. Okay, so I'm going to shut this video down, and then we're going to finish up our last video for the series, which is going to be the question, adding answers to questions. All right, which is a little bit complicated, but you know, it's built. What we've been doing is building up to that.